Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, the big facts on the 11-game slate schmacks for you today. Sal Vetri going to bring you the top 10 plays on the day for the NBA slate. And again, 11 games, so a lot of news to be monitoring, a lot of things to be getting through. Happy National Pretzel Day today. Fucking love pretzels. We'll leave it at that. The number 10 play on the day today, Jeremy Grant. Now, there's a lot of great plays today. Jeremy Grant specifically is going to be coming down to being basically a pricing play. This is a $7,200, $7,500 player, the number one potential scorer on his team at just $6,700 against Atlanta today with a nice team total, with a nice pace environment. And Jeremy Grant's minutes have been more stable than ever. 30 or more minutes in 4 of his last 5 games, coming off of a game where he played 34 minutes and shot 24 times. Shot 24 times. That's lovely. We have him right now at 1.06 fantasy points per minute. I'm giving Jeremy Grant 33 minutes of play today. So that starts to have Jeremy Grant start to project out for around 35 fantasy points at just $6,700. So he is currently, for me, about $300 to $500 underpriced today, making him our numero Diaz, number 10 play on the slate today. So that's a quickie, but we got a lot going on the rest of this slate when it comes to injury news and just when it comes to what's popping. So there's going to be a live stream later tonight at 5 p.m. East Coast times. Be on the lookout for that bad boy with the notification bell. So what you can do is like and subscribe, pops up right now. Tap that notification bell. Really helps you out when we go live later today. But a lot of injury news today. I mean, Dallas, Luka and Porzingis are questionable. Josh Richardson, a bunch of guys out there. The Heat guards and Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn are questionable. Dennis Schroeder, Steven Adams. The Clippers have some guards. Luke Kennard is going to be out. You have Rajon Rondo questionable, which gives a big bump up to Terrence Mann, who's already seeing bigger minutes. Lou Dort's questionable. Colin Sexton had a concussion mix yesterday. There's no news on him today, but I assume he's questionable, leaning towards doubtful. The 76ers, Tobias Harris, Korkmaz, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons out. Those other two guys are going to be questionable. The Magic, a bunch of guys still questionable. So lots of news today, so just be tracking that as the day goes on. Let's get into the rest of the top 10 plays. Again, happy National Pretzel Day. The weekend was so motherfucking fun. That was the best UFC card that I have potentially ever seen. It's hard to kind of, in the moment, we can make some things absolute and blow them up. This guy's the GOAT. That was the greatest performance I've ever seen. That was one of the 2 best UFC cards I have personally ever seen. If you're not a fan of the UFC, I feel bad for you. It's a fantastic sport that I tweeted yesterday. It has built-in stakes. It is my favorite sport these last 2 years because I don't have to have a single dime on it, and it is extremely exciting to watch, which is very rare for other sports, at least for me these days. You'll never catch me watching a baseball game just to watch a baseball game. Same exact thing, honestly, for football these days. It has to have some sort of stakes, DFS, gambling, something on it. But when it comes to the UFC, it's built-in motherfucking stakes. So like the sign says behind me, stay curious out there, fellas. Let's get into the rest of the top 10 plays in the slate today, and let's go into the number 9 play in the slate today, and that is going to be one Darius Garland, who yesterday was fantastic. And he was only $7,200 yesterday, but we were kind of saying, yo, this is going to be a very good spot for Darius Garland, even at the expensive price point of $7,200, because there's no Colin Sexton out there. Garland now becomes his ball-dominant guard, and Garland went on to score like 40-something motherfucking points. So he blows up. He goes up for $300 more. I'm expecting and projecting right now Colin Sexton to be out, and when Colin Sexton is out, you can see Garland, he's going to increase what he's been doing. He's averaging 1.05 fantasy points per minute during that time with no Colin Sexton on the court. But the bigger thing that we showed you yesterday, and I'm going to show you again, is a 34% assist percentage, which is so sexy and gives him more stability to this fantasy point per minute and more ceiling to it. So right now, Darius Garland at this $7,500 price point might seem expensive, and it definitely is, but he's still projecting out for me for close to 40 fantasy points like he was yesterday, which is still $500 underpriced if indeed Colin Sexton was to miss today. And the third most minutes on the team with no Sexton out there is Garland, 604 minutes. The number 8 play in the day is going to be Tyreese Halbern, and we liked Tyreese Halbern yesterday as well, and he was $6,200. Now he gets a massive price bump to $6,800, and normally I won't be on these guys after they get a big price bump, but we saw everything we wanted to see and more from Halbern yesterday. There's no De'Aaron Fox. There's still not going to be. A 111 team implied total is good to see. In a matchup against Dallas, where if anything, they're just going to be down some of their better defenders in Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic. And what did we get to see yesterday out of Tyreese Halbern? We got to see him play 37 minutes. I was giving 32, 33 minutes. I thought they might actually get DeLon Wright to the 30 to 32 range. They only gave DeLon Wright 27. So we get to see 37 minutes, 20 shot attempts. He scores 42.5 fantasy points, and it wasn't even like he shot the lights out of the place. He only shot 50% and only 2 of 7 from 3, so there's improvement even there, and he had his 8 assists. This is a good assist player in general. When Fox is off the court, it gets even better, so we got to see everything. We got to see good assists, we got to see big minutes, and we got to see shot volume, and now, if anything, if he just shoots a little bit better and can hold those minutes, he's going to be significantly underpriced. I mean, right now, for him to pay off for you, he basically just has to score 33 or 34 fantasy points. And you can see how productive he is. He goes from being like a 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer to 1.1. So yesterday we were saying, if he gets 30, 32 minutes somewhere in there, he's going to be a good play for you. If you can give him 35 minutes, not even what he got yesterday, give him his 1.1, that's a 39 fantasy point projection, which is clearly significantly underpriced. He should basically be, if that's going to be the case, somewhere around $7,900 to $7,800. You're getting a very nice discount still on Halbern, even with the price bump up that it got got since yesterday. Now, the number 7 play on the slate is going to be Paul George with still no Kawhi Leonard, and you also have Luke Kennard out, Rajon Rondo questionable, no Lou Williams on this team anymore, so it's going to continue to be Paul George for me. And I just want to touch on a couple of things before we get into it. The sponsor of the L program today, which is going to be Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is a player prop site where you can take the over-under on fantasy props, or you can just take the over-under on props in general on a bunch of different sports. It's very simple. You take the over-under, you win some dollar skis. How y'all doing? If you use the link in the description below, use the code SAL, the link in the description below, code SAL, S-A-L, they'll match you up to $100. Your first deposit, you put in 20, you got 20 back. Whatever you put in, they'll double it for you up to $100. Just say, oh, you know Sal? Yeah, let's hook these motherfuckers up because they know that dude. And this actually works out really well if we want to take one for the morning today. I didn't play any Prize Picks yesterday. I didn't play any DraftKings yesterday. The only Prize Picks I played was some of the ones that I made earlier on in the day for this video specifically. Basically, I had like 2 props in, but this works out perfectly. We want the over on Jeremy Grant. I told you I got him projected for closer to 35 points today. So give me the over on Jeremy Grant. We already broke these guys down, so I don't have to go too much more into it. And then also give me the over on Darius Garland, who we already broke down. I have Darius Garland, even with the upticks, as long as Sexton is out, projected out for about 40 to 41 fantasy points today. Coming off of a game where he scored over 45 fantasy points, I like Darius Garland's over. So we broke these guys down. There's not much more to say there. Take the over on Darius Garland. Take the over on Jeremy Grant. There's going to be more props. There's only 8 in the morning, but there'll be even more throughout the day. We have projections for NBA, for MLB, so there'll be MLB props as well. You can go up here. You can see the MLB. So check it all out. Prize Picks. I encourage you to try it out. Simplifies the way that you play DFS. It just takes a lot less time to get your dollar skis in play and even get more money down if you're looking to get more money down on other sites. I think this is a very fun spot to do it. We have a very active Discord for Prize Picks linked down below. So I would encourage you to check it all out in the description. You can check out that Discord in the description. Use the code SAL. Sign up for Prize Picks. Get your free dollar skis and start winning, baby. Have a lot of fun. What you waiting for out there? So thank you, Prize Picks, for being the sponsor of the L program today. So if we take off all the guys from the Clippers, the number 7 play is Paul George. You take off Kawhi Leonard. You take off Lou Williams for not being there. You take off Luke Kennard for not being out there. You get like a 220-minute sample for Paul George, and this motherfucker averages 1.53 fantasy points per minute, and he's been on an absolute tear lately. Remember when Paul George earlier this year, you would play him and he would do absolutely nothing for you? Oh, the complete opposite now. He's $9,600, and I actually have interest in Paul George. Why? Because the man has scored 56 or more fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games, and in 3 of those 5 games, he scored 60 or more fantasy points. All those games have been without Kawhi Leonard. The shot attempts are locked in right now in 4 of his last 5 games, shooting 22 or more times in 3 of those 24 mine. So he's getting all the volume. He's getting all the minutes. So he's just falling his way into peripherals, like 10 rebounds he's averaging in over his last 4 games. He's averaging 10 per game. Just insane double-double upside. A massive 24% assist percentage. One of these games he's going to click the triple-double and it's all going to lock in for you. So Paul George right now, yeah, $9,600. It's an expensive price tag, but I like it on this 11-game slate, especially because a guy like Luke Kennard is out. So even more so, like instead of them giving him 34 or 35 minutes, especially in blowouts, right? Now he can lock himself in for those minutes with the upside of these 37, 38 that he's been playing. So Paul George is our number 7 play in the slate today. A 116.75 team implied total as well. That 116.75 team implied total currently sits as the second highest on the slate, only behind Utah's 120 team implied total today. So Paul George, get yourselves some PG-13. Now I want to stay with the exact same team here and show you Terrence Mann. Why Terrence Mann at $4,800 might not pop up for a lot of people today. He might not even project out that amazing for people, although I think he'll look decent, is a quality play. And here's the reason why. The minutes in the last couple of games for Terrence Mann. So the exact same thing as Paul George. The 116.75 team implied total, the second highest on the slate. Now they're both shooting guard eligible, which is another thing to point out. Paul George being shooting guard eligible fills a very weak spot with a great player. Same exact thing for Terrence Mann, very weak spot with a good value today. The last 2 games, Terrence Mann, since there's been out there no Kawhi Leonard, and now there's no Luke Kennard, and Rajon Rondo is questionable, potentially going to miss. Lots of minutes for the guards to go around. You have Terrence Mann playing 34 and 37 minutes. In one of those games, 34 minutes, he scores 37 fantasy points. And he averages a not so great 0.7 fantasy points per minute, but this is a small sample because in the sample, he's shooting like 49% effective field goal rate. I think Terrence Mann is going to be probably shooting around 43 or 53 or 54%. So Terrence Mann tonight projecting out for like 0.75, 0.78. But the bigger thing here is if he plays 0.7, but the bigger thing here is if he can just average 0.75 fantasy points per minute, which isn't saying a lot, but he can get those 35 minutes a play or so, he starts to project out for me for like 27, 28 fantasy points, and he's below $5,000, which is clearly a nice value play today with all the upside in the world if he can actually produce a little bit better and shoot above 50% shooting. Terrence Mann is the number 6 play in the slate today, and then I'll go to Joel Embiid as the number 5 play in the day. There's a lot of pay-up options on a massive slate, but some guys are questionable, some guys are going to be injured. Joel Embiid at $10,200 is somebody that I do like. You're getting actually now a price discount on Joel Embiid with already knowing, you already know that there's no Ben Simmons out there. And now maybe there'll be no Tobias Harris out there, which looks even better for Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's coming off of a game where he only scored 34 fantasy points. But before that, he had 4 straight games, and listen to this, 4 straight games of 57.5 or more fantasy points, and 3 out of those 4 games scoring 60 or more fantasy points. In that last game, Joel Embiid only played 27 minutes of play. He got into a little bit of foul trouble in it. They kind of came on late against Milwaukee, but it wasn't really too competitive. So Joel Embiid has not played since the 22nd, has the 3rd highest, or actually tied for the 4th highest team implied total today with a 114.5. So good game environment, insane matchup for one of the best fantasy point per minute producers, 1.6 fantasy points per minute per game or so on the season, and the price has been dropping. The price just 2 games ago was $10,700. You're getting a $500 discount in the last couple of games on Joel Embiid for the massive upside that he has right now. And this slate is definitely filled with some center value, but you're also seeing a lot of mid-range nice value at the guard and small forward position. I mean, 3 shooting guards in a row right here in Tyreese Halbern are shooting guard eligible, Halbern, George, and Mann. So it's not as much of, oh, every single guy in the slate is a center that's really good, 5 or 6 in my top 10 like normally it is. So Joel Embiid, it's easier to get him in there early on because of opportunity cost. And as I say that about centers, we can actually get to a center now, and that is $5,400 Mo Bamba. Now, the only thing for Mo Bamba is if Wendell Carter, who did play yesterday, but they said Wendell Carter is going to be on a minutes limit. Now, Wendell Carter comes out there and he is on a minutes limit. He plays 21 minutes. We have to see if that minutes limit holds, because if Wendell Carter goes up to 25 or 26 minutes, every single minute that Wendell Carter Jr. plays, it hurts Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba yesterday, or 2 games ago, we should say, Mo Bamba goes out there, there's no Wendell Carter, he starts, plays 28 minutes, and he dominates. You expect that. 38 fantasy points out of a guy who averages literally this season like 1.30 fantasy points per minute. So every minute that Wendell Carter's not getting it basically goes to Mo Bamba. They combined it for 46 of the 48 center minutes out there. He scores about 36 fantasy points. So now he's $5,400. He needs to continue to get this 22 to 24 plus minutes. So track on what Wendell Carter is doing today. If I give Wendell Carter 22 minutes today, and that allows me to give Mo Bamba 24 to 26 minutes, it lets Mo Bamba still project out for 30 plus fantasy points at this price point of $5,400, looking like a value and a top 10, and right now, top 5 play on the day as our number 4 overall play so far. Now, as we get ourselves and we inch ourselves inside the top 3 today, 2 seconds of yo motherfucking time out there right now. Hey, like, subscribe, do those things, but also join Patreon. It's linked down below. Now, it is the end of the month, right? There's only like a couple more days left in the month. So at the end of the month, and this is what happens with Patreon. You sign up, and here's what it is. There's projections, rankings, optimizers. The optimizers are oh so powerful. It basically helps you reduce your research time and your time spent on just making lineups and all that type of stuff, and increase your chances of winning by giving you and making you the best possible lineups out there, giving you the projections, ranks, ownership, all these tools to have at your disposal. You're going into war saddled up right now, right? You're in the military. You're going into war on top of a hill, shooting down on your opponents. They ain't got no idea where you're coming from. You're just smacking them all around. The Discord access is very cool. I think that the more and more that I talk about doing events in person, the more and more people reach out like, yo, I'm going to be in Austin. Let's get a beer sometime. So I think we're going to have some fellas meetups. So if you're in the Discord, and even if you don't want to do the stuff in person, you're not somebody who's all about that life and meeting strangers, that's fine, right? We're trying to build a nice little community here, but you can stay in the community on the online version in that Discord and win some dollar rooski. So there's a lot of things. It's linked down below. It lays out basically all I just said and even more on what you get by joining the community. But what I want to let you know is that Patreon does charge upfront and then at the beginning of each month. So it can be a problem if people are signing up at the end of the month, but it's a problem that is very easy to fix. I just prorate you back pretty much immediately when the month starts. I prorate you back all the days that you did not use, so don't worry about it. So check it out, linked down below. Let me know if you have any specific questions. Come join this La Familia here over on Patreon. Now, the number 3 play in the day is going to be Chatty Osmond. Chatty Osmond started yesterday for Colin Sexton. So this is assuming yet again that Chatty Osmond starts for Colin Sexton. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible. So yet another guy who's cheap, $3,800, who can fill a weak position for you. He started yesterday, played massive fucking minutes. 37 minutes in that game, scores 31.5 fantasy points. And he has actually been good when he starts for injured players. He started back on April 11th. He played 29 minutes. He scored 31 fantasy points. So yesterday was actually a somewhat good, somewhat bad game for him. Shooting wise, he shot well, 58%, and he only scored though in 37 minutes, 31 fantasy points because he didn't pick up as many rebounds. This is a guy who can usually get you 4 or 5. He picks up 2, and he didn't pick up many other peripheral stats. So Chatty Osmond, you're gonna have to rely on real life points, probably 15 to 20 real life points for him to get you there. But in the minutes that he plays, in the shot attempts that he'll normally take, 10 to 12 to 13, I think it's a decent play out there right now in the streets. If we go back to the Cavs and take Sexton off the court, you can see Osmond plays the most minutes with Colin Sexton off the court this year and averages a pretty respectable 0.82 fantasy points per minute. If you just want to do the quick and dirty, just give him 0.8 fantasy points per minute. Say he plays 33 minutes or 34 minutes of play today, he's going to start to average out for 26, 27 fantasy points, which is clearly very good. A decent assist percentage of 16%, a decent rebounding rate of 12%, and the nicest thing, a 20% usage rate, meaning that he's seeing a nice usage bump overall, which makes sense. So him at the below $4,000 price tag looks like one of your better value options today. Yet again, another value piece, again, that fills that shooting guard small forward spot. Our number 2 play in the slate is going to be a center, and that is Daniel Gafford. So we are getting to a couple centers here, but that's only the 3rd center, and spoiler alert, it will be the 3rd and final center on the day. But Daniel Gafford is somebody you don't want to mess with. Daniel Gafford's seeing the minutes lately. Daniel Gafford has now seen 20 or more minutes and 24 or more minutes in 3 out of his last 6 games. And that's important because he was never seeing 20 minutes. He was seeing 16 or so minutes when he was with Chicago. Washington wants to make him that dude. So Daniel Gafford has played 27 minutes in that last game, 38.5 fantasy points. This is an elite fantasy point per minute producer. 1.15 on the season, but it's only rising with this new team in Washington. Gets a matchup against Jakob Poeltl in San Antonio. A 113.75 team implied total is actually rather high for this slate. And it looks more and more like they want to play him. He's not starting yet, so it's not secure that he gets these minutes. He's getting them off the bench. But Alex Len in that last game, it wasn't foul trouble or anything. started, only played 10 minutes, and like, you know what, Daniel Gafford's way better than you, Alex. Then we're going to let him come off the bench and do his thing, maybe try and avoid foul trouble for the first couple of minutes of the game and do his thing. But Daniel Gafford's just been an absolute monster. If he plays 16 minutes, he's probably getting you 20 fantasy points, and even there, he's not ruining you at this price point. But once he starts to hit 20, 24, 27, this is a guy just locked in. Like, this is, if you can get a consistent 25 to 26 minutes of play out of him, this is a Mo Bamba, should be $5,500 to $6,000 player. So Daniel Gafford, the number 2 play in the slate today. I would prefer Daniel Gafford right now to Mo Bamba with the price discount, assuming that Wendell Carter is at least in playing some minutes. And the number 1 play in the day today is somebody that I haven't played in a while, but recently the minutes are coming back. He plays for a team that is on a 9-game win streak, and these Knicks fans, oh boy, they are just jumping up and down. He is shooting guard eligible, so it looks really good. The Rose is back. Derrick Rose, give it to him. Rose won this weekend. Rose Namajunas, she absolutely kicked the shit out of somebody's head and won. Very good to see. But now you're seeing Derrick Rose, the number 1 play in the slate, at just $5,200. What he's doing recently is great. They're going for 10 wins in a row now, this New York Knicks teams, and he's shooting out of his mind. So that's one thing for a little bit of a pause or concern, but they're giving him more minutes with him. 30 or more minutes in 3 out of the last 4 games. In those games now, he's shooting 67, 67, and 70%, but he is somebody who takes it to the basket and finishes at the rim. So this higher shooting percentage is kind of natural for Derrick Rose, like 54% is just kind of what he's been doing on the year, but it's not going to stay in the upper 70s. It's just not going to. This is still a guy who takes jump shots out there, and he's scoring real life points, 23, 17, 20, and 19. So he's kind of on a heater right now, but the price point hasn't been changing. I mean, Derrick Rose last week, 4 or 5 games ago, before this hot stretch started, was $5,100. Now he's just $5,200, and he's getting more minutes because of his good play. This is a guy that you were hoping would get you to 25 minutes. Now you're hoping that he just stays at 30 and gets you to 33, 34. So Derrick Rose right now, the minutes are there. He's shooting guard eligible. He is a good fantasy point per minute producer, mind you, 1.03 fantasy points per minute. So when he starts to play 30 minutes, he starts to project out for 30 plus fantasy points, which he's been producing lately at just $5,200. Give me Derrick Rose on the New York Wicks, trying to go for 10. I said the New York Wicks. They ain't no candles, but they are on fire. But Derrick Rose, the number 1 play on the day today. Thank you for tuning into the video. I appreciate you all a ton. We'll be live later today, and it's NFL draft week, so maybe we'll start to get some NFL draft content out this week on some rookies and things like that. And then it's full steam ahead, middle of May, all the way up until the NFL season starts with some NFL content coming out. But the NBA, we're here right now, so like, subscribe before you go. Get on Patreon, check it out. We'll prorate you if indeed you need so, as I'm assuming you will, since it's the end of the month when you're watching this. And support the sponsor of the program today, Prize Picks, who we talked about. We already talked about getting the over on both Jeremy Grant, who we kind of broke them down in this video, and the over on Darius Garland, 37, the over on Jeremy Grant, 32, so you can check them both out. And if you're somebody who watches the entire video, I'll let you know about the other sponsor of our program, SuperDraft, because the contests are still not filling. We did this yesterday. We said at the end of the program, so we don't get everybody in there, right? Just the people who are loyal and watch till the end. At the end of the program, we said this contest is probably going to fill about 60 or 65% on a Sunday. It filled right around there. Filled at like 59 to 60%. On a Monday, it might fill at like 65 to 70%. The story being, though, if it fills at 70%, SuperDraft, the multiplier format, we have projections for it, all that stuff to help you out. But the bigger thing here is that if you enter this contest today, it'll fill at like 70%. You'll beat 30% of the field just by putting a lineup in. There's no other sport for DFS or betting. There's no other competition in the world where just by signing up for it, you beat 30% of the competition, right? But it's a guaranteed prize pool. So there's $3,000 to first. You just putting in a lineup today, you'll beat a third of the field. You'll never do that on DraftKings. You'll never do that on FanDuel. You'll never do that on any other competition that you ever. If you enter a race, you don't beat 30% of the field just for showing up to the starting line, right? It's absolutely crazy what's happening right now. It used to be a marketing tactic. I don't know if this is good news or bad news for SuperDraft. Maybe they're still going for a marketing tactic, or if this is just a last-ditch effort for their company. I don't really know. But what you should be doing is taking advantage of it while it's still here. So use the link down below in the description. If you want to sign up, you could use the code SAL. If you put in $25, they'll match you right there. They'll double your money, give you $25 back. The contest is not going to fill. Go beat 30% or a third of the competition for a chance at $3,000. Literally the best ROI potential that you'll have in DFS today, and really probably anywhere. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate you all. See you on the live stream later today. Like, subscribe, notification bell, so you know when we're going live. See you there at about 5 p.m. East Coast time. Massive slate. Let's win some motherfucking dollar bills, y'all.